What would you do if the person who ruined your life suddenly needed you to save theirs? Rain poured like buckets over the streets of Seattle. Ethan Miller's ambulance cut through the storm, sirens screaming, tires slicing through puddles. Inside, his hands were steady, his mind sharp, but deep down he was tired. Not just physically. Tired in a way only years of heartbreak, struggle, and endless emergencies could make a man. Once, he designed engines for airplanes, complex, brilliant machines that soared in the sky. No. He was saving lives in the back of a speeding ambulance. Life had a way of humbling even the smartest of men. Tonight, the emergency was intense. A woman, trapped in a mangled silver car, mid-30s, barely breathing. Her pulse was fading fast. Ethan didn't hesitate. Hands pressed hard on her chest, counting compressions. "Come on, don't give up now," he whispered. Minutes dragged, every second feeling like a lifetime. And then, a faint heartbeat. Life returned, fragile but alive. Ethan exhaled, exhausted, his mind flicking to his daughter, Lily. Probably asleep now, clutching her favorite stuffed bear. He had promised her pancakes in the morning, too much syrup, just like she loved. That promise was his anchor, the one piece of life that truly felt his. Then his eyes caught the ID tag on her purse. Clara Whitmore. The CEO who had ended his career. Time stopped. Memories hit him like lightning, the boardroom betrayal, the call that never came. The look on his daughter's face when he had to tell her they'd lost everything. 10 years of work, destroyed with a single signature. Her signature. And now, she lay there, helpless, breathing because of him. Ethan stepped back, wet and shaking, caught between anger and disbelief. He should hate her. He should feel rage. But all he felt was a strange, heavy exhaustion, mixed with an almost cruel sense of irony. Outside, the storm raged on. Inside, one man faced a question he never expected. How do you save the life of someone who once destroyed yours? His eyes locked on her ID tag again, Clara Whitmore. Shock froze him, and the world seemed to hold its breath. The one signature that had ruined his life was now lying right in front of him, unconscious, pale, fragile. Ethan froze for a moment, memories flooding back. The boardroom meetings he wasn't invited to. The calls that never came. The 10 years he spent building engines for her company. All gone because of one report. One piece of paper. And her signature. Anger bubbled inside him, but so did a strange, bitter irony. The rain outside had slowed to a drizzle, but the city still buzzed with chaos. Lights reflecting off the wet streets like the storm in his own mind. He took a deep breath. Should he hate her? Could he? Or should he just do his job, the one thing he knew mattered tonight? Thoughts of his daughter, Lily, filled his mind. Her laughter, the way she trusted the world, the way she believed in him. He couldn't let anger take that from her. Slowly, the monitors beeped steadily. She was stable now, still unconscious, completely unaware that the man who had saved her was the same man whose life she had once shattered. Ethan stepped back, drenched and exhausted, staring at her. The universe had a strange way of testing him, putting the person who had destroyed him right in his hands. And in that moment, he realized he faced a choice he never expected. Could he save her life, without letting the past destroy him again? The name kept echoing in his head, over and over. Clara Whitmore. It felt like the universe was laughing at him. Every siren, every flashing light on the streets reminded him of her. Of the life she had taken from him with just a signature. Ethan slipped back into his routine. Racing through emergencies. Feeling the city's hum press against him. Nights and mornings blurred together. Full of strangers in pain and endless fatigue. But his thoughts always drifted to his daughter, Lily. Her laughter. Her trust. Her tiny hands holding his. It was the one thing that made all the broken pieces of his life bearable. Every patient, every call, reminded him of her. The woman whose choices had ruined his career. Yet whose life he had saved without thinking twice. Anger mixed with something he didn't expect. Curiosity. A strange need to understand. Could he forgive her? Should he? Or was it enough to just do his job and let life move on? 3 nights later, The universe forced him to face her again. He walked into the hospital room, and there she was. Awake. Fragile. Blinking in confusion. Her eyes met his for a split second, searching, trying to place him. She didn't recognize him yet. But Ethan felt it. She sensed something familiar, something she couldn't quite name. And in that instant, he knew this encounter would change everything. Sometimes saving a life isn't just about medicine. It's about the heart. When Ethan walked into the hospital room, she was awake this time, Clara Whitmore. The woman who had once destroyed his career now looked fragile. Lost. Her eyes flickered toward him, confused, searching for recognition. For a moment, they just stared at each other. The silence between them was louder than any siren Ethan had ever heard. You were there, weren't you?" she finally asked, her voice soft and uncertain. Ethan gave a small nod. "Just doing my job," he said, his tone calm but distant. No warmth, no bitterness, just control. He turned to leave before the conversation could go anywhere deeper. Clara watched him go, her throat tight. She didn't know if he remembered, but deep down, she felt it, he did. The shame sat heavy in her chest. For years, she had buried the truth, convincing herself it was just business. Just one wrong decision. But now, face to face with a man who had every reason to hate her, she felt the weight of every lie she'd told herself. Outside the room, Ethan leaned against the wall, his heart pounding. So many memories. So much pain. Yet instead of anger, he felt something else. Relief, maybe. Maybe saving her had already freed him a little. Maybe it was time to stop letting the past own him. Just as he was about to leave for his next shift, a message came through. Clara wanted to meet him, officially, through HR. She said she wanted to thank him personally. Ethan frowned, uncertain. Was this guilt? Redemption? Or something else entirely? Whatever it was, he knew one thing. This story wasn't over. Not even close. What happens when the person you destroyed suddenly has the power to forgive you, or walk away forever? Clara couldn't sleep. No matter how many times she turned off the lights, the past wouldn't stay quiet. The boardroom. The forged documents. The lies Nathan Cole had whispered. All of it came rushing back like a storm. She had trusted the wrong man. And Ethan had paid the price for it. She had spent years building a perfect image. Fancy awards, magazine covers, charity dinners. But none of it silenced the guilt. Deep down, she knew every bit of her success was built on someone else's ruin. And now that man, the one she betrayed, had saved her life. Without anger. Without hesitation. That thought wouldn't leave her. How could someone she'd destroyed still choose to save her? What kind of strength was that? The next morning, she made up her mind. No more lies. No more pretending. She opened her laptop and started digging into the company's old records, emails, reports, financial logs, everything she had ignored for years. Her heart raced as she scrolled through thousands of files. And then, she saw it. Nathan Cole's name. His digital signature. The proof that he had been the real thief, shifting company funds under Ethan's codes. It was all there, in plain sight. Clara sat frozen, her heart pounding in her ears. After all this time, the truth was finally in her hands. The truth that could clear Ethan's name and destroy the lie she'd helped build. Meanwhile, across the city, Ethan was finishing another long shift. He tucked Lily into bed, listening to her soft laughter as she drifted off to sleep. But even in that quiet, something inside him still felt unfinished. Like life was waiting to show him one last truth. And at that exact moment, Clara stared at the evidence glowing on her screen, whispering to herself, "It's time to make this right." Sometimes, one letter can't erase the past, but it can change everything that comes next. Ethan was standing by his car after dropping Lily at school, when a sleek black car stopped beside him. The door opened, and out stepped Clara. No power suit. No bodyguards. Just a woman carrying the weight of her own choices. "Mr. Miller," she said quietly. He stiffened. "How did you find me?" She gave a small smile. "You saved my life. The least I could do was find yours." She handed him an envelope. Ethan hesitated, then opened it, Inside was a letter of exoneration and a check. His voice hardened. "If this is about money, keep it." Clara shook her head. "It's not money, Ethan. It's what you were owed. It's the truth." He looked up at her, searching her face for the woman who'd once ruined him. But this wasn't her anymore. There was no pride, no power, just guilt and honesty. "You really think this fixes everything?" he asked quietly. "No," she said, her voice trembling. "But maybe it's a start." For a long moment, silence hung between them. Only the sound of children laughing nearby. Then Ethan folded the letter carefully and tucked it into his jacket. "I'll read it," he said. And this time, he didn't walk away angry. Something had shifted. Not forgiveness yet, but maybe the start of it. Days later, the headlines exploded everywhere. Ethan Miller cleared of all charges, real culprit found. The story was everywhere. His name finally clean. His truth finally heard. Clara, meanwhile, stepped down as CEO, leaving behind the empire she'd once ruled. She had faced her demons, and now she was ready to build something new. But this time, not as a boss. Not as a savior. As a partner. Sometimes, the people who break you are the ones who end up putting you back together. A few weeks after everything came out in the news, Ethan thought his story with Clara was over. But then she called. Her voice was calm, almost nervous. "I'm starting something new," she said. "A design firm. And I can't do it without you." Ethan went quiet. "You don't need me, Clara." "I do," she replied softly. "Not as your employee this time, as your partner." He didn't promise anything. But a few days later, he found himself standing outside a small workshop. Nothing fancy, just an old warehouse with sunlight streaming through dusty windows. Inside, blueprints covered the tables, and the smell of fresh coffee filled the air. Clara looked up, surprised but smiling. "Didn't think you'd actually come." Ethan gave a small grin. "Neither did I." At first, it was awkward, two people with a painful history pretending to talk only about work. But slowly, things began to shift. They started building something real, a partnership based on respect, not guilt. Ethan would sketch designs late into the night while Clara worked beside him, her focus steady. Sometimes they argued, sometimes they laughed, but every day, the distance between them grew smaller. And then there was Lily. She'd visit after school, her little backpack bouncing as she ran inside. She'd sit beside them, doodling her own flying cars, next to her dad's blueprints. Clara adored her. The child's laughter filled the room with warmth that neither of them knew they were missing. Slowly, without realizing it, Ethan stopped seeing Clara as the woman who destroyed his life, and started seeing her as the one helping him rebuild it. Forgiveness isn't something you say, it's something you show. Months passed, and Ethan and Clara found a rhythm that just worked. What began as a tense partnership slowly turned into teamwork that felt natural. The long nights, the sketches, the endless cups of coffee. Somehow, it all made sense now. Clara wasn't the same woman he once knew. The pride, the ego, the corporate mask, all gone. Now she asked. She listened. She apologized when she didn't have to. And Ethan, though still careful, started to see the real her. Not the CEO who destroyed his life, but the human being trying to make things right. They built something bigger than just a project. They built respect. Together, they designed an aircraft engine that caught everyone's attention. Investors started calling. Journalists wanted interviews. But for the first time, neither of them cared about the spotlight. They just wanted to do good work. Sometimes, after long days, they'd sit outside the workshop and watch the sunset fade over the city. No words. No tension. Just quiet peace. And in that silence, forgiveness was already happening. Then came the big moment. Their first project launched nationwide. The news headline flashed. Disgraced engineer and former CEO rebuild the future together. At the press conference, someone asked Ethan, "After everything she did, how can you work with her again?" He smiled, calm, certain. "Because sometimes," he said, "life breaks you apart, just so it can rebuild you stronger, with the right people." The crowd went silent. And in that single moment, everyone understood. Forgiveness isn't about forgetting what happened. It's about choosing to move forward anyway. What started as pain ended in peace. Years passed, and life finally slowed down. The company Ethan and Clara built wasn't the biggest or flashiest, but it was honest. People trusted them. Not because of fame, but because of the way they worked. Quietly. Consistently. With heart. Ethan still split his time, half in the workshop, half in the ambulance. He said saving lives reminded him of what truly mattered. Clara would watch him sometimes, proud, but silent, realizing that forgiveness had turned them both into better people. Lily had grown too. She'd run through the workshop, her laughter echoing against the metal walls. She'd call it Dad's Dream Factory. And every time she said it, Ethan's heart would soften a little more. The place that once felt heavy with memories was now full of life, warmth, laughter, second chances. The same rain that once fell on the worst night of Ethan's life now tapped gently on the roof like a familiar friend. Sometimes, they'd sit outside after work, watching the city lights shimmer in the distance. No big speeches. No deep talks. Just quiet smiles that said, "We made it." Ethan turned to Clara one evening and said, "You know, maybe everything had to fall apart first, so it could come together the right way." She looked at him, eyes soft, voice barely above a whisper. "Maybe fate wasn't cruel, Ethan. Maybe it was just patient." The rain kept falling, but this time, it didn't hurt. It felt like a blessing, a gentle reminder that even the darkest storms can lead to clear skies. And just like that, what began as tragedy finally became redemption.